Yeah, I'm talking about the Arabs in Israel. But
because they consider that still their land.
Yeah, but there's so many different ways we can have this conversation. But everything for me comes down to socioeconomics, okay? To me, I'm always wondering, why is the Palestinian plight at the forefront of the news? Right now we're starting to see Yemen in the news. People don't realize for 10 years there's been a civil war with the Houthi rebels, Saudis, Sunnis, Shiites, Iranian-backed militants killing each other. Never in the news. Syria, tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people murdered. We know what's going on in Iraq, what's going on in Afghanistan. This is not an anomaly in the Middle East. But in my opinion, humbly, with all due respect, what's going on in Gaza is the equivalent of BLM in the States. What do I mean? So, black on black crime. Every single weekend in Baltimore, in D.C., in Chicago, you name the city, there's black on black crime. Let one cop kill a black guy, George Floyd, national, international news. In the Middle East, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, you name it, Iraq, every day, Muslims are killing other Muslims. A lot of it is Islamists, fundamentalists. There's no marches, there's no protests, but Israel defends itself after October 7th, and I've seen you condemn Hamas for October 7th, but you've also sympathized with the Palestinians, as you should. But all of a sudden, that's the biggest story in the news. Why the distinguishment? Why can't Muslims
There's a difference between comparing conflicts, civil war, and then allowing another country to bomb you from the sky every single day for 100 days. You cannot compare the both. And actually, your tone of voice, when you say, oh, there is like black on black, Arabs killing each other, in your undertone is saying, yeah, they don't deserve to live, so let's Israel.
0%.
This is exactly
0%.
what you're saying. No, this is what you're
that's
saying.
not what I said.
No, this is what I'm saying.
I asked a question, you're reading into my tone.
You have absolutely no sympathy for the Palestinian killing because
that's not true at all. Don't put words in my mouth.
No, seriously.
I 100% have sympathy.
Your entrance into this conversation is extremely racist because you say, well, Arabs have been killing each other. First of all, the Arabs have been killing each other. These are called either proxy wars or civil wars. But this is different because America is not standing behind Saudi Arabia voting every single UN resolution like Israel. Israel is killing Palestinians and nobody can do anything for them in the UN or the Security Council. Right? You can talk about how Saudis are killing the Houthis or the Yemenis or how Iran. But when they go to the Security Council, America doesn't use the veto. You know how many vetoes did America use since the inception of the Security Council? How many?
Tell me.
88. How many of those were they used in order to protect Israel from a veto?
0.
56.
Oh.
The superpower of the world over 50 years used more than 65% of its veto power to protect one country. You cannot compare both.
So why do you think that is? Why is Israel so aligned with Israel? I'm sorry, why is U.S. so aligned with Israel over Gaza?
I don't know. I mean, there's like a million.
Ask yourself.
There's a million. Why? So why
I want to know.
Tell me, because they're white like them? Are they allowed to pick
Who's white?
Well, I mean, a lot of Americans consider Israel is the white.
But you know for a fact.
I know.
Most Israelis are Sephardic and they're brown.
It's the perception.
So it's bullshit.
It's the perception.
Exactly.
It's a perception. So this is how Israel promotes itself. We are we are a democratic country. I have never seen a secular or democratic country that would actually give contraception shots to its own citizens, to their Ethiopian Jews, and make them not to reproduce. And until 2013, they have confessed doing that. They have been doing this for 10 years. That is not a democratic country. I have never heard a secular country, a democratic country, that would kidnap little kids from Yemeni Jews in 1950 and then take them away and then tell their parents that they die. And they did that in order to instill Semitic DNA in their population. That's why DNA testing is not allowed in Israel.
So are you pro-Islam? Are you anti-Israel or both?
I'm not pro anything. I'm pro-humanity, man.
So am I.
It doesn't matter my religion is. I don't care, actually. And I can give you 100 things I can tell you about Islamic countries that they do wrong. But what happens is right now is that the people who are bombing people every single day They are not Yemenis, they're not Houthis, they're not Saudis. They're Israelis. For 100 days, they have dropped almost 3 nuclear weapons on an open air prison, and all because of Hamas. Dude, if ISIS was already there, you have no excuse to kill 30,000 people.
You can't say words like nuclear weapons when it's not true, Bassem, and you know that.
The equivalent of 3. No, I can't.
So now they're dropping nuclear weapons? That's what you're trying to sell me on this one now?
I said like they're dropping the equivalent of 3 nuclear weapons.
So how many people have died in Gaza?
30,000 people.
Okay, according to Hamas. Obviously, UN gets their number from Hamas.
So
but
do you,
over the last...
do you have a number that you trust?
No, I don't have any number that I trust, but I'll take your word for it. I don't think that sounds...
So how many? How many?
Hundreds of thousands of Muslims have died in the Middle East.
How many people in Israel died in October 7th?
According to the numbers, 1,200. But
according to who?
But the numbers are still being counted.
According to whom?
According to the IDF.
Oh, but I don't trust the IDF.
Whether you do or you don't, those are the numbers that we're working with.
Well, I'm giving you 30,000 people died, and you said you don't trust them. So who do we trust?
That's not what I said. I said according to Hamas.
Yeah, but
so
like
whether I believe the numbers...
When you say according to Hamas, it's like it's the undertone that you don't believe the numbers.
With all due respect, you're missing my point. 30,000, other than the Hamas fighters, because I will stand to kill these people. I hope 0 civilians die. But we know what happens.
But they die.
Of course.
Every day.
But let's go back to my initial question. Let me ask this question, and then you can stick to my...
How do you think how many...
But what about the 100... 0.
Should stop?
0.
But they're killing it.
Okay, but that's not my point, Bassem. My point is this. 30...
How many
can I ask
lost
the question?
their limbs?
Can I ask the question? And then you can have the full response. Why is this issue at the forefront of the news when hundreds of thousands... Since 9/11, 5 million plus people in the Middle East have died. 5 million. 5 million versus 30,000. Where are the marches? Where are the protests?
You haven't been around.
No,
you just haven't been around.
No, but I also read the newspapers. I see what's going on.
Because there has been marches against what's happening in Yemen. There have been massive marches against what happened in Iraq.
If you ask the average person, they couldn't tell you that there's a war in Yemen.
There is a difference.
But if you ask the average American, they know what is exactly going on in Israel.
Here's the thing. These mental gymnastics where you want to divert people to other conflicts, these conflicts are proxy wars. These conflicts are civil war. Terrible, horrible. Civil war. There's been civil war happening in all kind of Asian and African country. The only difference is that is a foreign country invading another country, like exactly Russia invaded Ukraine, and then everybody is sitting there. All they ask is ceasefire, because one of the people in that conflict is a country that has been financed, given money by the U.S. It is considered as part of the free world because they're secular, because they are democratic, and they are committing war crimes every single day under the eyes of the United States, of the UN, and the Security Council. And that is why it is different.
Fair enough. So civil wars are totally okay. If it's a civil war, don't look at those are people just doing their thing.
Did I ever say that civil war is okay?
But you basically equivalized. Let's have a civil war, 5 million people die across the Middle East.
Yeah, it is terrible.
It's no big deal.
Usually the civil war is really supported by like 2 proxy people, and they're like killing each other, and it's terrible, and they're trying to do it. And at the same time, those people are not just like killing them, they're killing them, wanted to push them out, openly saying that we are going to push the Palestinians into the Sinai. Basically, that is my country. All right?
The only people shouting for the river to the sea are the Gazans. Well, Palestine will be free. So what does a free Palestine look like?
You know what's the difference between regular people in the street shouting from the river and the sea? These are regular people that are carrying flags in the street. You know what's happened on the other side? You have government official like Bitzail, like the Minister of Finance. You have Ben Ghafir, who is the Minister of National Security. Both of them, by the way, were arrested many times for acts of terrorism against their own country.
These are Israeli prime ministers?
These the ministers.
Not the prime ministers, ministers of certain.
Yeah.
So do you mean to tell me that Yahya Sinwar, who's the head of Hamas, or Mahmoud Abbas, who's the head of the PLO, they're not politically saying from the river to the sea? So if we're going to use that equivalence...
You didn't even finish.
Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, you are comparing a militant group, a terrorist group, with a secular democratic country. This secular democratic country that I'm telling you about, they have ministers coming up with the map of Greater Israel behind of them, and they openly talk about them, which is, by the way, if you don't know, the Greater Israel map is from the river to the Euphrates, including parts of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, and of course Palestine. So that is the official talk of the official ministers. So you want to kind of ignore this, and you go after random people in the streets with flags saying from the river to the sea. Don't you see the comparisons a little bit?
Well, it's not just random people. It is Hamas, who is the governing body of Gaza.
Hamas?
But
Hamas
the point of a democracy, what do you mean?
Hamas, at the end of the day, they're a militant
Gaza.
group. They're a militant group. They're ISIS. You don't take them seriously. Militant group.
Don't take them seriously. They're the leaders of Gaza, Bassem. They were elected in 2006, and as your joke said, a 30-year...
2006, when nobody actually was alive by then. Like now, like people there, how many people were alive?
50% of Gaza was not alive in 2006.
So if you did an election right now, they're not going to be the rulers of Gaza.
Yeah, but you didn't do an election. That's the point.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because basically they kicked out Fatah and the PLO, and they're running the West Bank.
And Israel didn't put them under blockade and kick the shit out of them.
There is an argument to be made there. You think that I'm saying that Israel is completely innessent? Do you think I would say that the U.S. is completely innocent?
No, I don't think you said that.
We had a debacle in Iraq. We had a debacle in Afghanistan. There's no perfect country. There's no innocent country.
Listen, this is what you do. And when I say what you do is what America and Israel and all of this, like let's kill them all.
No. You've already put words in my mouth. You've called me racist. You're saying that I want to kill everybody. I've said none of those words.
You kill people and then you ask questions later. You kill people, you ask questions later.
Isn't that what Hamas does?
America did. Hamas is a terrorist group. You are comparing Hamas. Every time you compare Hamas, I'm bringing you Israel and America, which are supposedly democratic countries. Hamas and ISIS and whatever, these people are not like good examples, right?
I agree.
Good example. So when you tell me Hamas, all right, fine, Hamas, horrible people. Let's talk about the leaders of the free world. America, they kill first, they ask questions later, and the result, Afghanistan and Iraq.
Disasters.
They kill.
I'm not going to argue with on that one. Disaster.
Israel kill later, and then the result, what's happening in Gaza and what's been happening to Gaza. There's no justification for Israel to kill 30,000 people right now. And all the thing about October 7th, many of them, can you tell me where are the decapitated babies? What are their names? Can you get me the names?
You want me to go over every dead, decapitated Israeli baby's name?
I think that story was refuted, wasn't it?
It was refuted many times.
It wasn't real.
And it was the biggest story.
What's your point? That Hamas didn't kill babies? That didn't kill women?
I say if you have
There's hundreds of people kidnapped by Hamas. What's your point?
No. They're kidnapped, yes.
You're saying that 1,200 people weren't murdered?
If a terrorist group would decapitate people, if terrorist group would burn people, you know what terrorist groups does? They terrorize. They will show them off. Like ISIS, they were burning people in cages. All right? We will not find about the atrocities of rape or about decapitating from other sources because a terrorist group, by design, terrorizes. They will go in with their GoPro. They will show you the babies that they decapitated. They will not gonna hide it. It's like, oh my, we didn't do it because terrorist groups does that. Right? Remember ISIS, when they were burning people in cages, they like to promote their terror because the terrorist group wanted to terrorize the public. We have not seen anything of that.
That's one of the most naive comments I've ever heard. We've seen videos, countless videos, of them gang raping women and then blowing their head off while they chop off one of their breasts. We've seen these videos.
No, you haven't seen it.
Well, are you fucking crazy? Of course we've seen these videos.
Seen it.
We've seen dead bodies littered all over kibbutzes.
You have read about it.
Okay.
And I can
go watch the videos.
And I can,
You're choosing. This is selective ignorance. This is selective ignorance. That's like me saying, if that's like me saying, of course Israel's not bombing indiscriminately. No, they have. And I'm at least willing to own that. And I'm not Israeli, I'm American.
By the way, I'm not defending Hamas. They did.
But you are equivalent.
But what I'm saying is all of these like decapitating babies, that is wrong. That never happened.
Okay, it was only a few.
A few? How many?
Dude, I'm not there on the ground. So what's your argument?
We have pictures.
Let's be clear here. What's your argument? That they didn't decapitate one baby's head?
No.
So what are you saying?
I said that what Hamas did was terrible, but it was inflated by things to make it emotional, to think that it's okay to kill all of those people.
It was inflated. So it wasn't 1,200? Well, how much was it?
I don't know.
Okay. So Israelis' numbers are inflated, 1,200, but the 30,000 from Hamas is not inflated? You're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
As a matter of fact, according to Israeli survivors, they said that many of these casualties happened because Israeli troops came in and indiscriminately killed everybody, including the hostages.
That's the first time I've heard that story. I've been
first time because you were not covering, because you have not listening to the survivors from the Israelis.
Every morning I read credible sources, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Bloomberg. Okay, so what are you reading? Hamas.com? Like, where are you getting your sources?
Haaretz.
Okay, Haaretz. Yeah, the Israeli newspaper.
The Time of Israel.
Yes, of course. I read those too.
They have actually brought
I've
people.
never heard them say one time that 1,200 people were not murdered.
I didn't
Not
say
in
that.
one paper.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said many of those numbers that were killed, they were killed because of the indiscriminating interference by the Israeli troops, and many of them died because of...
4 people were killed that way when they tried to rescue the hostages.
No,
the fact that you're trying to equivocate 1,200 people...
You're late in the game.
Basser,
You're late in the game. There was a woman that was named Dalia. She came out on an Israeli podcast and she said that everybody in the kibbutz were died, and then we went out and we said the Israeli tank, the one that fired on the whole kibbutz.
This is bullshit stories.
All right.
You think the IDF is just coming in and just spraying down kibbutzes? That's like saying American troops are just coming into a conflict here and just spraying down fellow Americans.
It's called the Hannibal.
It's bullshit.
It's called the Hannibal Protocol. Look it up.
Yeah, we'll look it up. But I think that's bullshit.